Healing reading is about helping a person understand again how their particular gifts, their spiritual gifts, apply in their healing journey and in their journey of wellness. So I might be talking with you about how to utilize your clairvoyance in healing a condition in your body that really needs attention, and exactly how they interface, how you use the skill to assist you.
So would you describe a healing reading in more depth, please?
Sure. With a healing reading, and by the way, they seem to have become more popular with the advent of my book, The Root of All Healing, which isn't a surprise, but yeah, of course. So people are looking for more in-depth perception about themselves.
Sure.
So the way that I do a reading is to begin meditating with that individual. So I take questions that you've submitted to me, and 3 questions, and then my own question, which is, what is your most fundamental spiritual healing gift? Into a deep meditation. And you're not there. So we can do this with, you could be in another country, and you and I could do this because you'd email your questions. When I'm in the meditative state, the advantage that I find is that I'm not picking up your thoughts. I'm not picking up your desires or your fears unless they are significant to the reading itself. I'm connecting with you at your soul level. I'm connecting with your guides. I'm connecting with your relationship to spirit as you know spirit, or the divine. And I am one at a time asking those questions and then going in very deeply, much like Edgar Cayce did. Going into that trance state, pulling up the information, and then bringing it back to the individual. And then we would get together over the phone for another half an hour, and I would share with you what I discovered, as well as give you some insight about your healing gift and how to apply that to support you in your healing and your transformation.
So you told me a Parvo story?
Oh, this is a great demonstration about how my gift works. Thank you for bringing that up. It is a great story. A lovely friend of mine came to me and said, Misa, I've been to the doctor. We can't figure out what's wrong with me. And he's been running a bunch of tests. Would you be willing to go meditate? Which meant, would you get a reading for me, please? And I said, sure. So I went into a deep meditative state, and I got the answer very quickly, very firmly, and I heard Parvo. And I paused for a moment, and I thought, Parvo. She worked in a veterinary clinic with animals. So I'm thinking, well, the animals that come in might have Parvo. Why am I hearing Parvo? Because I had never heard of a case of a human having Parvo. So I went back into meditation really deeply. I asked again. Parvo came up very clearly. Finally, I said, fine, this is the answer for whatever reason. I took it back to her and I said, this is really odd to me. I don't understand it, but the answer I'm getting is Parvo. You might want to talk to your doctor about whether there's a strain of parvovirus that humans can get and test for it. Well, she looked at me dubiously like, humans getting Parvo? She hadn't heard of it either. But she trusted me. She went to her doctor, asked him to run the test, asked if there was a strain, and there was. Ran the test, and she'd been exposed to parvovirus. And it did indeed explain the symptoms that she had been having, and gave her some ideas about what the treatment needed to be.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that happens in a healing reading. Let me share another story with you. A woman came to me, lots of emotional problems. Those were the most prominent issues for her, and some physical issues, and asked me to go into meditation. So I did, and I got very clearly there had been a curse in her family several generations back. And so I checked into that, discovered what she could do with her gift to release herself from the curse, and then came back to her in the reading with a prescription you wouldn't normally get from a doctor.
I guess.
Here's what you need to do to release yourself from that curse, to free your emotions and free your body. Another story. This is very common because I get a lot of empaths coming to see me. And a friend of mine was having tremendous headaches. I mean, 3-day migraine headaches, if you can imagine. Just horrible for her. And she got them periodically, but they didn't seem to have any connection to stress, hormones, anything that you might normally look for in terms of the origins of a migraine headache.
Mm-hmm.
And so I meditated with her in healing mode. So I was working with her to bring everything into a calm place where the headache would release. And I kept seeing this vision of a volcano exploding. What the heck? What an incredible metaphor for a migraine headache. The energy was like coming out of the top of her head, and it was. So we got everything calmed down, and I sat down with her and I said, I keep seeing this vision of a volcano. And so we talked about that, and whether it was real or symbolic, or what was this telling her. And both of us had the sense that it was more than symbolic. So she did some research, and sure enough, there had been a major volcanic explosion at the very time she was having the headaches. And so she called me and we talked about it. Well, let's watch this and see if we have a pattern emerging. Mm-hmm. So she did. The next time she started to feel a headache come on, she did some research on the net and found, yes, there was another volcano that they were expecting was going to be blowing like within the next day or two. So we knew there was an empathic connection that she had with the earth. So the next conversation was about how to use her particular energetic healing gifts to be present with Mother Earth at the time that Mother Earth was going through this major explosion of energy. And as soon as she began applying her energy healing talents, then when she got a signal that there was a headache coming, she would realize that was her empathy, apply the skills that she had in energy healing. Headaches were gone. She stopped having them completely. So the healing readings are about getting to causes, root causes, that frequently are not easily identified. Sometimes they have a spiritual root, an emotional, mental, or physical root, but they typically are not easily identified.
Thank you. Through your book, The Root of All Healing, and your webinars and your internet radio shows and in person, you do a lot of teaching about self-empowerment in one's spiritual and or healing journey. So why do you do readings?
That's a great question. I do readings because it's so difficult for us to see ourselves. And sometimes when we can get a little bit of outside perspective about who we are and what's going on for us, we get that little kernel of insight that does empower us, that allows us to move deeper into our self-mastery. So the readings are really my gift. That's my talent. That's what's been given to me, is the ability to see other people's gifts and to be able to recognize how one uses spiritual gifts in the physical world in a very practical and real way. So my intention with the reading is to empower the individual with insight and information about themselves that hopefully will allow them to carry themselves further in their journey, whether it's spiritual development or it's physical healing. They're getting what they need.
So often people have gifts that they're not actually tuned into yet.
Oh, yeah.
So, what kind of gifts are we talking about?
Oh,
here?
that's the great fun. For example, I knew one woman who saw auras from the time she was little. She thought everyone saw auras. And that is so true with our gifts. Very often they're innate to who we are. We've always had them. Our families weren't necessarily taught to look for spiritual gifts. We aren't living in the early indigenous cultures where the medicine person of the village or the shaman of the village was, in tuned to the little one being born and what their gifts were and what their abilities were, and teaching the parents how to coach the child in their spiritual development. So we have lost that connection. And that's something I find that through the readings I get to do is help people recognize the gifts that they really do have as being something special and unique. And in doing so, they recognize the power of the gift and how they could better utilize the gift.
Nice. Now, you said earlier that you have people email you 3 questions, and you meditate with those questions as well as the one that you have. And now, do they get a recording or something?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that. When we do the telecall, after I've done the meditation, we go to a line where I can record it for them and then make it available to them as an MP3, so they have it available.
Cool. The last question I wanted to ask you is, what do you most enjoy about the readings you do?
I absolutely love that moment when someone gets the aha. And it might be the big aha, like, you mean my dreams in 3D mean something significant? That's part of my gift? You mean everybody doesn't dream in 3D and bright color and, as though it's real? These are grand revelations to some people. Their uniqueness is a wonderful discovery. For others, it's more like a settling in aha, like, I have known that way deep down inside. I knew it, and now that you're saying it, I can claim it and I can own it, and I see how significant it is to my life. When someone recognizes in that moment of truth how powerful they are, how dear they are, and precious and beautiful they are, that's an experience of the divine. That's when you're connecting to the divine at your core. And that, for me, being witness to that and being able to support someone in that moment, that's pure heaven. And that's why I do the readings.
Misa, thank you so much for your time and the gifts that you bring to the world.